And welcome to the shout with myself, Mark Carlaw from the West Ham Way. Today I'm going to be joined by Riley Finch, who's going to be involved in the West Ham Way going forward. However, we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Firstly, though, I want to be talking about the last game of the season, poor result. It was something I'm struggling with still, to be honest. I was hoping for a lot better. I think we all were. Especially the fact we were leading at half time, but we can talk about that a little bit later on. Also, we talk about the transfer window and, of course, Jarrod Bowen's England call-up. But first, I'd like to introduce you to Riley Finch. I'm just going to add to the stream now. So how you been, Riley? You been good?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Apart from the obviously the last week of the Premier League, bit heartbreaking for us, but yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, it was. We have to talk about it straight away. I mean, final day. Personally, I'm still really gutted about it. I really felt that, especially the prize that was at stake, that was there, and it was there for the taking as far as I'm concerned, especially at half-time, leading 1-0, Manchester United losing. I really thought we were going to get sixth. I'm stunned that we threw it away like we did.
Well, I'm not too surprised, to be honest. I think going into the last day of the season, I was more worried about us getting the job done at Brighton than I was about Palace getting the job done at United.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it was no surprise to me that we threw it away in the second half. We don't play well against three at the back is the thing that I would say the most. Teams like Tottenham, Frankfurt, we've just found no way through. And obviously, historically, Brighton we're just really crap against. So I never thought we were going to do it. I actually didn't think we should have been up 1-0 at half-time. I thought we were quite lucky to be 1-0 up at half-time. So
you were there, weren't you? Am I right in thinking you were in the press box?
Yeah, I was. So I was at the game, and when the Antonio goal went in, I promised myself I wouldn't celebrate too hard because I was supposed to be in the press unbiased. But I did celebrate. I did the fist pumps and all that sort of stuff.
Brilliant.
And this fan in front of me at half time sort of like popped over the press bit, and he was like, "You part of the BBC?" So I was like, "Oh, just University of Brighton." And I was expected to get like called out to the parking lot or something, and he was like, "Oh, it's only because I'm a West Ham fan." I was like, "Oh, I fuck with that." But yeah, I had a good view of the game, and to be honest, I just don't think we should have been 1-0 up at all. They had some early chances which they really should have put away. Classic Brighton, not being able to put away their chances. And yeah, going into half time, obviously the table's looking very good for us, but I never really had a sense that we were going to get the job done. So I don't know if we threw it away. It's definitely a missed opportunity, but I don't really know if we threw it away.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, yeah, as you say, look at the performance of the first half didn't warrant a lead, I don't believe. I mean, it was a great goal from Antonio. I just thought that going in at half-time, knowing that we had 45 minutes really to clinch sixth, and all we need to do was just see that game out, it was really disappointing. And it's just that hoodoo with Brighton, for whatever reason, like I know, like say, three at the back, that's where we struggle, but we just can't seem to cope with that team. I don't know what it is. But having said that, standing back from the whole situation, you look at the season as a whole, finishing, top 7 again, European football again. It is exciting. We can't be too disappointed. It's just, it does feel slightly like an opportunity miss, and a bit gutting that we felt. I know it sounds ridiculous to say it, but Man United finished above us, and the season they had, we should have been above them, in my opinion.
No, absolutely, mate. I mean, look, you can't be mad at this season. I don't think a lot of us would have said that we would have gotten 7th. And I think if at the start of the season you said 7th place, decent cup run, and a Europa League semi-final, you'd be saying, yeah, that's not true. So for us to be in that position is amazing. But obviously you can't help but feel it was a missed opportunity. I mean, even if you look at it in the sense of if Mark Noble doesn't miss that penalty against Manchester United, we get 6th place.
Yeah.
So not even just the Brighton game, but, I think the second half of the season as a whole for us has been very, very disappointing, mainly because of squad depth, in my view. But look, you can't be mad at this season, and it does feel like an opportunity lost. But, it was quite good last season because, we finished above Tottenham, so that was like a little accolade for us. So to have finished above Arsenal. So to have finished above Man U this season would have been quite nice just because it is Man U.
Absolutely, yeah.
But, it is what it is. And like I said, I don't think anyone can really be mad at what we've achieved this season.
No, definitely not. I mean, as you say, staying back from the situation, it's still been a very, very good season, considering as well, on top of that, how well we've done in the Europa League and even domestic cups we've done well. So overall, I'm pleased. It's just, that one, it does hurt a little bit, that result, but it's one of those things we have to just take on board. I did notice David Moyes, though, his comments after the game. I don't know if you saw that, and I'm guessing you probably have, but
yeah,
he was... I don't think I've ever seen him that angry as a West Ham manager yet. I mean, he was absolutely furious.
So I actually got the opportunity to interview David Moyes in the press conference.
Fantastic.
And I was a little bit hesitant because obviously we know he's a bit of a spiky manager. So I don't want to, first introduction to David Moyes, piss him off with a question he doesn't like.
No.
But no, in the press conference, he was absolutely fuming. He basically insinuated that there's going to be a lot of outgoings next season. That he was just not proud of the players at all. He actually said that all the players knew that Palace were leading 1-0 at half time, and he wanted them to go out there and show that they had something to fight for, and they didn't show him that at all. So he gave a very scolding post-match sort of interview, and fair play to him, because I think he is that type of manager. He is that type of manager where, if there is a sense of complacency now, where we've got Europe 2 seasons in a row, and it's good to see him saying, well, no, I'm not happy with that. We need to be achieving better, or at least going out there and looking like we're going to achieve something.
Absolutely. I mean, if we want to be mixing it with the big clubs, if we want to be considered a big side, and let's be honest, we are, I think people would say we probably punched above our weight last season, which arguably they're probably right a little bit, finishing 65 points, considering the fact the season before we were, down the bottom end of the table. So it was a possibly slightly overachieved, but he's right. If the players can't get up for that and can't, get themselves in a position where to see that over the line, it is quite concerning. And that was one thing I was going to bring up with you. Obviously, from that reaction from Moyes and the fact that he did allude to players leaving, whether they're going to be staying this summer. Really, you've got to kind of look at certain players now and think, are they good enough? There's been a lot of talk today about Thomas Souček possibly being put on the transfer in the market. Also, Benrahma. What's your thoughts on those? I mean, are they players you think, is that a little bit rash, or is it time to be saying we want to step up and go a little bit further now and players that are going to be a bit more the level that we need them to be?
Well, I think with Souček, I think he needs an understudy. I think he's looked knackered this season, and I don't think it's wise to replace him. I just think he needs an opportunity to get fresh legs in. Do you know what I mean? So the thing about Souček is he gives us that stature, that we don't get in a lot of other games. I can't remember which game it was, if it was Chelsea or something, where we had a really small side. I can't remember what it was, but we kept getting beaten in the air, and we just looked really, really sort of the lack of physicality. And I think what Souček brings to the side is that sort of physicality. He's not had a good season. No one's going to sit here and try and tell you he's had a good season, but I definitely think maybe we're a bit too quick to judge. And looking at the replacements, which we'll probably be talking about later, I'm not too sure it's wise business to offload him. And as far as Benrahma's concerned, I think that's incredibly harsh, considering he's got 16 goal involvement, something like that, and he's been in and out of the squad the whole time. Also, Vlasic as well. That came out of nowhere for me. I don't know what your sort of thoughts are on that.
For me, I totally agree with you on Souček. I think that it'd be really harsh on him to be moved on. I mean, he hasn't had the best of seasons. Like you say, though, I think he works very hard and he's very good in the air and does bring a lot to the side in that regard. For me, what he's lacked, all right, the goal side of it has been a bit disappointing as well for him. But I think his passing as well has been pretty poor.
Yeah, that's been my main thing as well.
He gives the ball away a lot, and it doesn't come across creative, really, and very inventive at all. I know that's not his forte, but last season he was definitely more potent, it seemed, and this season it seems to have gone. I don't know whether because of the shift in roles with Rice now becoming a more dominant player has affected him, and that possibly has. But at the end of the day, he's a top pro. He should be able to play a bit better. But still, I'm in the camp that he should be kept. Not necessarily as a first team. If we can replace him and he'd be a rotating midfielder, I think that might be better. Benrahma, like you say, it's quite harsh. The problem is with Benrahma, he's one of the most frustrating players for me. He's just he's got it all, but his decision making is so poor at times, and I think he just lacks that Premier League top quality decision, brain. He seems to do some things that are quite special, but then a lot of the time, he does sort of the hard work, and then something simple, just laying the ball off. He doesn't quite do it, and you just think
he's a bit like an impact player. I think sometimes, when you start for 90 minutes, he doesn't exactly give you what you see when you bring him on for 30.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. I wouldn't mind him being sold as long as he's replaced with someone of quality that can come step straight in. For me, there's an obvious candidate. at the moment in Jesse Lingard. Although I appreciate Jesse's, turning 30, I think, the end of this year. However, having said that, I think the way that how fit he is, and the way he's kind of built, I can kind of see him probably going for another 3 or 4 years at this level. I really can. I don't think he's going to sort of tire out. But that would be my deal. If they can get Lingard in, or someone of that caliber, then I can understand them possibly moving Benrahma on, considering the fact you probably could get 20-25 million for Benrahma possibly still, which is, wouldn't be a bad return. All right, it's still a loss, but I'm not sure on Benrahma still. I wouldn't mind him being kept, but if we can get someone in better, then I'd happily see that happen. Vlasic, I really feel sorry for. I think he's looked quite good when he's played for us, to be honest. He just doesn't seem to get a chance. I think it's quite clear there's a kind of Moyes type player, isn't there? He's got his players that he likes. And I think we kind of seen that over his, since he's been manager at West Ham, that he's quite ruthless with certain players. If they don't just quite fit into how he's working, you can kind of see that quite early on. They're just not going to be part of his plans, even if they come in and do well. And I think actually Benrahma falls into that position as well. I don't think he was really, Moyes' number one choice.
He was a Salthouse buy, it seems like, doesn't it? It was more of a Sullivan buy than a Moyes buy. I mean, I'm not sure on Vlasic side. Like you say, he's always looked good when he's come on, and he's like, 23, 24. But it was my understanding that was a Moyes buy. I mean, it was last day of the transfer window, so it could have been a panic buy maybe. But if you're going to pump 27 million into a player, I'd expect that to have been a Moyes buy.
Yeah, and it's a strange one with him, because with Moyes, he's someone that's very careful with who he signs. We've seen that in January. I think we could have made a couple of signings, but he made it quite clear he wasn't willing to part with money for players that were just going to come in and fill a void, or not necessarily going to add much to the squad. I think he's always, very careful with who he brings in. So Vlasic is a strange one, because he didn't really do it at Everton. We spent quite a lot of money on him. It's not like he came in for 5 to 10 million. He's coming for, was it 25? I think it was.
I think it was in the range of 27 to 30 or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, very high, he came with a big fee. And let's be honest, if we are going to sell Vlasic, we're probably not going to get much more than 15 million for him, I would guess.
I wouldn't have said so.
So that's a massive loss. So it's a strange one. And then, as you say, he comes on, he looks quite good, he looks hungry. I mean, I saw him, I can't remember what game it was, when he was on the sidelines warming up and we'd scored, and he went absolutely crazy and ran on the pitch.
It was a Sevilla game, maybe.
Was it? Yeah. No, I think you're right, it was. And he went mad, so it's not like he doesn't come across a player that's angry or unhappy at the club, or if he comes across quite humble. So it's a strange one. But I'm saying that I wouldn't be surprised if he is let go.
I mean, he's rated quite highly as well by players like Declan Rice and players of the club. I think I can't remember exactly who said it, but they said that he had like one of the most powerful shots in the whole squad, and was one of the best shooters in the whole of the squad. So, look at Benrahma last season. He scored I think 1 goal and had like 3 or 4 assists. The output he's put out this season is a lot better. I think Vlasic needs a chance. And like you say, if we're only going to recuperate 15 million, we might as well take a punt on him. You might
absolutely,
as well.
I mean, the noises of the players that are up for grabs. I mean, it seems like quite a lot, and the fact that we've already got Noble that's gone, Yarmolenko needs replacing as well. I think Fredericks looks like he's on his way out. I mean, to now add another sort of 3 or 4 players to that list, plus the players that we need to bring in on top of all this, strikers especially. It seems like a hell of a lot of business needs to be done. And let's be honest, West Ham are not the best at that. I think there's only one summer I can remember when we bought Anderson, I think it was, and it might have been Nautovich possibly. I can't remember that. I remember we had a window where we were very busy.
It was like Anderson, Haleb, all that. Diop, I think, as well. It was the Pellegrini debut season where he spent about 80 million or something odd.
Yeah, it was a lot of money, and we were doing a lot of business. Apart from that, we're not really a club that does a lot in a window, do we? We tend to do 1 or 2 deals, and that's about it. So the fact now we're looking at possibly shipping in maybe 10 players, it kind of it just doesn't. It's very out of. It's not the way West Ham tend to work. So I am struggling to believe that we'd actually let go of Souček, Benrahma, Vlasic, on top of the players that have already gone and the other ones that are rumoured to be going. So I would like to think there's a couple of players in that list that possibly will be kept on anyway, unless, of course, there is a very good deal to be had. Then fair enough. But one thing we need to talk about: Jarrod Bowen, England call up. I mean, really exciting. What's your thoughts?
He's got to be the most underrated right winger in the league, and unless you're a West Ham fan, you don't actually appreciate how good he is. His improvement from this year to last year is paramount. It's incredible. I mean, the amount of chances he would have missed playing the way he played last year, this year, is incredible. That's the one thing he's added to his game, is his potency in front of goal. And you see it. He's got what, like, was it 10 goals and 12 assists this season?
Unbelievable. Yeah, and I think 18
Unbelievable.
goals in all competitions as well, I think.
Yeah, and 29 goal involvements in all competitions as well, which is just one off Mount and one off and drawing level with Saka. Look, I think it was inevitability of him getting an England call up, but I am kind of surprised at the public's kind of opinion on it. Seeing the BBC tweet out things like, "Does Jarrod Bowen deserve an England call up?" is a bit baffling to me.
I think it's that old cliche of,
he's
it's
West
badge
Ham,
on the shirt. If he was wearing an
Yeah.
Arsenal kit, they'd all be cheering about it. It just seems to be the fact that he's a West Ham player. I think that's all it's driven by. It's almost like they're a bit annoyed by it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, why is he in the squad? He doesn't quite fit in with the top 6 big club caliber. But I mean, like you say, to West Ham fans, it was more than deserved. We're not surprised by it at all. He's been brilliant for us this season. Like you say, I actually think for me, he was really neck and neck with me and Rice for Hammer of the Year. I think Rice had to get it just because of the levels of consistency and how good he's been. But Bowen's really not far behind. I mean, he's been exceptional for us. Like, and as you say, his improvement this season's like frightening. And you kind of just think now, like, for next season, what could it bring? If he stays fit, he's more than capable of scoring 20 Premier League goals. We all know it.
Yeah, there's a reason that clubs like Liverpool are slapping a £60 million price tag on him, and that's because he is a really, really good right winger. And it's sort of this new thing we're seeing with right wingers and midfielders where they cut in. And, the one thing I would question next season is if we're going to bring a striker in, there need to be somebody who's going to do that interchange with Bowen on the wing the way Antonio would, because part of me worries that we might lose that potency in front of goal from him because he won't be able to cut in as much because a striker will be occupying that space. So, but like in terms of England call-ups, as a West Ham fan, it's brilliant to see because I think there's a lot of people in our squads who obviously not at this age, but should have got England call-ups by now. Obvious one, Mark Noble. I don't know if Creswell's got one, but
I don't think
he has. But definitely the last couple of years, he should have had an England call-up. And obviously, players like Declan Rice, you can't ignore players like that, even though people try and tend to. Even Antonio, I think, probably should have got an England call up in the last couple of years.
Yeah. I just think sometimes with these players, they've just because of the competition ahead of them, it's just kind of impossible. That's the only issue they've had. I think there's a stage with Mark Noble. I think when he was at his peak, I think at that point you had Lampard, Gerrard, and players like that. It was just too difficult to break into that side, which is a bit unfortunate for him. Like you say, with Rice, he's just too good to ignore. But I mean, and also as well, I can't remember the last time we had 2 West Ham players in the England squad. I remember when we had Trevor Sinclair in it, and possibly maybe Rio around that time, possibly around that. I can't remember a time though, in recent years at all that we've had 2 West Ham players, and also let's be honest, 2 very, very good West Ham players. But I mean, if Bowen plays for England in these Nations Leagues, I expect him to probably score at some stage or do something quite special. Rice always seems to play well for England, and that was another question I was going to put to you, Riley, was the what impact this is going to have to West Ham as a brand, as a business now, and as a club, because obviously now we've got the Europa League, we've got to the Final Four, which I think has done us no harm at all in terms of players abroad looking at this club. We're now back on the European stage again. Okay, not quite a Europa, but it's still a decent competition to be involved in. And let's be honest, we're probably going to go in as one of the favourites early on.
We should be, yeah.
You'd think so. And then you've now got 2 West Ham players playing for the England squad. And I think it seems to be now we're stepping up again now. We are sort of stamping our mark as a top side in England at last. And, if we could have another good season, and say Bowen retains his place, I mean, this is good. There's some big things. I mean, do you think that'll have an impact this summer on the transfer window? I
think if we'd have gotten Europa League, probably. But, I mean, look, I think West Ham are a very exciting project in the Premier League. If I was a foreign player or just a player in the Championship, I feel like going to a West Ham or a Newcastle would be a massive project for me. So I do think there's still a bit of a stigma about everyone's kind of expecting it to be a season where we're going to drop off and then go back to where we belong in kind of like the top 10 and the bottom half of the table. I still think a lot of teams and a lot of fan bases do sort of disregard it as what we're doing at the moment. We haven't really been accepted in the way sort of Leicester has, like when they won the league and then they kind of cemented themselves as like a top 4 team or like a top 6 team. I still feel like there's a bit of a way to go for that for us.
There's definitely a stigma attached to West Ham, and possibly rightly so in a way, because if you look back, apart from these last 2 seasons, we've been pretty shocking over the last 20 years. Let's say we've been pretty poor. All right, despite maybe the odd season, the final one at the Bowling was quite special, and a couple of others, we've done okay. But ultimately, we've always really struggled. So maybe there is a reason, like you say, maybe there is that expectation that we are going to fall away. I think if we had another season, if we could say finish in the top 6 next season, which is going to be a massive ask, especially now the fact that you've got clubs like Newcastle, like you said, they're no doubt going to invest heavily. I think you've got Leicester that they've fallen short this season. I think they'll come back. I think Wolves are there again. All right, they were sniffing around us at the end. Manchester United obviously got a new manager. It's going to be really hard. I think even finishing the top 8 is going to be quite tough the way it's going. The way on paper possibly. So if we can somehow achieve another top 7, top 6 finish next season, I think hopefully that stigma will be removed finally. Like you say, hopefully then teams will actually accept us and go, wow, they are really, they mean business now, which I think means this summer is so important. We've got to get it right.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the other thing I do think is a lot of people, including I'd say every West Ham fan, expects Rice to leave at some point, and there's going to be huge question marks as to how we deal with that loss, who we can get in to replace him. I think a lot of people think that because we've got Declan Rice and Jarrod Bowen, we're punching above our weight at the moment. And when they inevitably go off to a Liverpool or a City, we're going to drop back down again. But like you say, if we could do well in the transfer window, which is there's no reason why we can't, you just look at our fan base, you scour Twitter and you see some of these transfers that these people are sort of drawing up and these transfer lists. And you think, 1, that's very achievable. 2, that's a great transfer list. So it's a massive summer for us. I'd say the biggest thing is us keeping Bowen and Rice, but we also need reinforcements. We have to get some reinforcements in.
I'm quite confident we will, personally. I think we will keep Bowen and Rice. I don't think they're going to go this summer. I don't see... We're under no pressure to sell Rice at any stage at the moment. He's still got 3 years to go in his deal. I don't, for far as what I know, the club don't need the money at this stage. Unless a ridiculous offer comes in of 150 million, then of course I'm sure the club will look at it. But I can't see that happening at the moment. My gut feeling is that the key to us keeping those players is to show, ambition, and this is a key. Yeah. The reality is we're not going to be able to sign players that the Manchester Cities and Liverpools are in for. We know that, but we've got to be competing with the likes of Arsenal's and Tottenham's now. We've got to be in that market. The likes of the days of us spending no more than 30 million on a player and 40 million, the maximum, they've got to kind of go now. I think we need to be stepping up and saying a sort of 60, 70 million target. We need to be taking them seriously. If we want to start mixing it with them, that's how we need to start approaching it. And I'm not saying that you need to throw money necessarily in the situation, because we've seen that at other clubs, it doesn't necessarily work. Manchester United, prime example, spent a fortune, and let's be honest, they're in a total mess. I think you've got to spend it right. And I'm not saying that we don't go to the Championship still, but at the end of the day, the position we're in and the season we've had, and the last 2 seasons we've had, we should be able to now attract the bigger players. I just hope that the club now with the new owners, or the new investors, should I say, involved, we show that kind of ambition and that bit of muscle now, and that we mean business. And we'll come on to transfers soon, but it looks like we are, from what I'm seeing, it looks like we are sort of mixing it now with the big teams. We are going for the big players, and the names that are being mentioned are the top end, which is quite exciting.
Well, I mean, the only thing I keep thinking about is we need squad depth. I mean, how much of a budget would you say we need in order to get a successful transfer window? Because when I tally it up in my head, it's coming to about 100 and 150 million. If we want a genuine getting the big players and squad depth, there's going to be a big fine line between those.
Yeah, and I don't see why we can't spend that amount, really. I mean, looking at what we spent in the last couple of years, I think it would tie up really that we should have that as a budget. It's how we spend it, make sure we spend it wisely. But I don't see the reason why not, especially if we're selling players on as well. For me, though, although the squad was it wasn't the biggest of squads. For me, it actually wasn't as thin as people sort of say. I think for me, it was more thin in terms of quality rather than just depth. All right. I think the problem is when we want to rotate, we don't have the quality player to step in. That's the issue. We're reliant on, especially up front. It's ridiculous to consider that we had to play Antonio literally every match.
I don't know how we survived, mate, to be honest with you. That's the biggest shock for me this season, is that those paper hamstrings have somehow been reinforced with A4 paper or something. I'm not sure, but
I know, ridiculous.
He's played, God knows, 50 odd games, four different competitions plus international football. And to my knowledge, I think he's had no serious injuries. So
I mean, it's a miracle, isn't it? It's a miracle because, I mean, as you say, that we were all expecting it straight away, and that was the frustration. I think the fact that Antonio survived the season is a miracle. But I mean, even when you look at our midfield, there was not many. Well, Rice pretty much played every game. You know, I mean, the only players we ever seemed to really rotate were kind of the wingers a little bit. Ben Rama, Fornals, and Lanzini dropping in occasionally. That was pretty much our only bit of rotation. Everything else, we were just reliant on the same players. Always the same left back. Oh, possibly at right back, we had Johnson and Soufal to rotate a bit. But ultimately, we didn't have much. I think that's where we've suffered. You know, the fact we've always relied on Souček and Rice in the middle. If they're fit, they play, which is ridiculous as well. We need a decent midfielder to step in. And there are question marks over the players that we've got behind them, especially when you're looking at Conor Coventry. I'd love to see come in, but at the end of the day, is he going to be at the level we need him to be? I'm not sure. If we're talking the levels we want to be hitting. I think we need to be looking at someone like a Calvin Phillips personally, but whether that's achievable, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, like you say, it's going to be a really poignant transfer window. We could get it horribly wrong, like we did, in my opinion, in January and in the last summer, or we could absolutely push on and sign players like Nunez and Phillips and Ward-Prowse and those sorts of players, and we could honestly push on and definitely make a top 6 push. But like you say, competition is going to be really, really tough this year. For me, the top 6 is kind of going to be cemented next year. The only question marks for me is over Man United, because I think Ten Hag's going to take a while to implement his vision. So if they do finish 7th again, it wouldn't surprise me. But Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool, all them lot, I think are going to have the top 5 sort of cemented in. So yeah, it's going to be really tough for us. And the issue is, like, if we have a good transfer window, another club can have just as good a transfer window. And then where does that leave us sort of level pegging? So we really need to make sure we get this one right, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's massive. It's sort of do or die now. We've got a good opportunity here, but as you say, the fact that we've got the pressure from all the other clubs, we've just got to get it right. Before we go back onto the summer transfer window and getting, we've got a couple of items to discuss on that. Stuart Pearce's departure. What was your thoughts on that? Because that was, for me, that was a little bit of a shock. That I didn't see that coming. But what was your thoughts?
Look, I mean, I think his charisma is something, and his character is something that we're not going to be able to replace very quickly. I don't think there's many backroom staff that you could talk about that are as passionate and show as much character as Stuart Pearce does. He kind of embodies Moyes, and he's clearly important because when GSB obviously forbid him from joining Moyes' backroom staff was it the first time round?
It was, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and Moyes was very unhappy with it. You can see how important he is, but like I say, it was completely out of nowhere. It just, there wasn't really a real decision around it. And the people that I'm hearing might be replacing him are not filling me with too much joy. So,
who are you hearing? What have you heard so far?
Michael Carrick, apparently. Not, obviously ex-West Ham lads. He's not going to be a part of Ten Hag's plans. So, potentially him. Others say Joe Cole. I don't think that'll happen. And a lot of people talk about Mark Noble, which I think is a bit weird because there's no way he's going to join a role like that. He's made it clear he wants a bit of time off. He wants a bit of holiday. Obviously, if he was available, that would be the first person I get in there. And also promoting Nolan to that position as well is a rumour that I've heard. So
yeah, I agree. I think from what I understand of it, exactly like you say, I think that they're the rumours at the moment. I think Nolan wouldn't be a bad shout. I think he's he knows Moyes very well.
He's the most conservative option, doesn't he? Really.
Absolutely. He fits. He can go straight into the role. He knows the players, knows the systems, and he knows the club. He's he's played for West Ham, so it's kind of fair. Michael Carrick, I wouldn't mind. I'm not sure about him though. I don't know enough about Michael. I've met him when I was younger, when he was in his playing days, but he doesn't come across the most the noisiest. He's quite a reserved character. Not necessarily like you have to be in that role. I'm not sure. I mean, the fact that he's been at Manchester United. I know he's not there at the moment, but he's been around that club for a long, long time and been in that position. Kind of shows that he must have something about him. The fact that managers have kept him on.
Well, I mean, he was identified as one of Manchester United's key issues by Manchester United fans during Ollie's reign. So
really, and what do you know what the reason was? Why that was?
I'm honestly not sure, but so when obviously Man United are looking to do their rebuild, Woodward was the first person they wanted to get rid of, and when Ollie came out and a Carrick took over as the caretaker manager, Manchester United fans sort of thought that's just papering over the cracks. Carrick is one of the problems. Mark Goldbridge especially really wanted Carrick out, Again, I'm not really sure what the actual problem is, whether he's just out of his depth at United, which you can understand. They need someone in that position who's going to be a bit world class. Having someone like Carrick in there is not, even as a player, he was, fairly sort of average. He wasn't like, cream of the crop. So, I wouldn't be against Michael Carrick, but some of the stuff I've heard doesn't fill me with like confidence, because this is something again that we definitely need to get right, because like I say, Pearce was such a huge character, and I think a lot of our mentality has come from Pearce and Moyes sort of like as a pincer.
Yeah, I mean, I think to be fair, I think he's always tend to get this right though. Moyes, his backroom staff he tends to get correct, so I'm quite confident he will. I think if he wants Carrick and that's the case, then I trust him that he is the right guy.
For sure.
And also the fact that he's a West Ham boy, he's come through the academy, and so at least he understands that the principles and the values of the club. But it'd be interesting to see. I mean, my gut feeling is it's going to be Nolan, and then they'll be back, and then they'll fill it in with somebody else with a bit less experience, possibly. But we'll see. So moving on quickly then to the transfer window. We've obviously discussed that already in a little bit, fair bit of detail. One thing that's come out, that seems to be happening, and one deal that seems to be edging very, very close now is this Rennes defender, the Aguerd. Is it Aguerd? Or I'm not sure how you pronounce his name.
So my pronunciation's not great, so we'll go with that. I mean, he's Moroccan, so God knows how it's going to be pronounced.
No, I'll give it a go. We'll wait and see what Sky say. But that seems to be, and that seems to be a real David Moyes type player. He's young, tall, and he seems to be a very good player, in terms of his stats, and and that seems pretty decent. Although I don't know if there's much competition after him. What's your thoughts? Do you know much about this defender at the moment?
I can't say I know a lot about him. To be honest, do you know if he's a ball playing defender, or I assume
he is. His distribution is supposed to be very good.
Yeah, because obviously that's what we're mainly after. I mean, I'm a big admirer of Joe Gomez of Liverpool, who we have been rumoured to possibly put transfer bid in for quite a few months ago, and they said they were trying to offload him, but it kind of looks like he's going to stay now. But getting a ball playing defender for me is absolutely crucial. Getting the ball to Rice as quickly as possible is what we need to be doing. And he seems to have physicality. He's a young player. Playing in League One, Premier League would be maybe a bit of a big step up for him. It's not really that much of a physical League One. Do you know what I mean? So
it'd be interesting. I mean, as you say, Premier League's very different. I think he's very tall, and I've got a couple of stats on me. He's 6'3", so I mean, he's not small, and that ticks a big box, I think, for us. And the fact he's good on the ball, on the ground, and can play football, I think that'll really help us. I just think it's a bit. What I'm quite excited about is not only the caliber of player, which he seems to be, very highly rated, but it's also the fact that we're getting the deal done early. It seems that he's someone that Moyes targeted, wanted, and they've just gone and got the deal done. So the conversation's obviously been happening for some time, but I believe that it's edging very close now. It could even be even happen before this podcast goes live, onto YouTube. Another one I wanted to touch on was the goalkeeper situation. Now, Fabianski signed, I believe, an extension for a year. Areola, there's a big question mark still whether the deal can be done. Although, it depends who you believe at the moment. A typical transfer season with, Sky Sports reporting one thing, someone saying another. It seems that could be happening though. However, there's an opportunity, I believe, that Nick Pope could be an option for us. Personally, and this is me, I would rather Nick Pope. That's just my gut feeling. If the option was there to have him, have an England goalkeeper, knows the Premier League. I just think, and to be honest with you, what I know of him and seen of him, I really highly rate him. I think he's actually in the England squad as well, I believe. The recent one.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't buy just sort of off the top of my head. I'm not sure how old Nick Pope is.
No, I don't know. I'll have a quick look while you're talking about it. I'll have a little look.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on the situation then?
I think so. Personally, obviously, Areola's he's an easy one, isn't he? Because he's already played for a year and he's shown what he can do for us. He also played for Fulham as well in the Premier League. Got the relegated, you could say, but no, I'm totally on board with you, mate. I'm a big admirer of Nick Pope. I think whenever I watch him play, he makes big saves, very commanding in his box, which is something Fabianski really lacks in. I think if we're looking at positions that we need people to get replaced in, I think goalkeeper's number one for me. I think Fabianski needs to become the number two.
Yeah,
I'd honestly take either of them. The only thing I would say though, Pope's going to be easier to get, cheaper, and less wages, I would imagine.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. I mean, it looks like that's the sticking point, I believe, with
Yeah.
Areola, is that I think the wage would make him one of the top earners at the club,
which we don't need.
For a goalkeeper. And that's, I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like Areola. He's been decent for us, but there is a part of me that's feeling that if Pope's available, that would be the better option for us. As you say, probably better money wise anyway. I've just looked up, he's 30, Pope.
So it's only one in front of Areola, then, is he not?
And then also, goalkeepers, let's be honest, that doesn't really mean a lot. 30, he's probably can play till 36, 37, realistically, at top goalkeeper level anyway. So I'm not too concerned about that. But I think if he's available, and let's be honest, the fact they've been relegated should help us get him in a decent enough deal. And I don't know what the wages will be, but I'm sure they won't be in the region of what we're talking about for Areola.
Yeah, I think we might face competition from Newcastle to sign him, which sad to say, but I think if we're facing competition from Newcastle for a sign-in, unless Pope heavily cares about European football, I think Newcastle do have a lot of lure when it comes to money, and obviously Burnley would be more inclined to accept a higher offer for him. So
that's the issue. I mean,
either goalkeeper though.
To be honest with you, Riley, I think that's going to be the thorn in our side throughout this window because, like I've said, we're not in a position to compete with the top clubs, really. We're not going to be able to compete. If Liverpool and Man City are battling out, West Ham aren't going to have nowhere near a shot. So every sort of type of player we're going to go for, I think Newcastle are going to be aligned with. The only thing, as you say, the lure we've got is, well, London being a big one, and two, European football. And the fact we've got, Declan Rice, Bowen now in England squad, I think that could be a little bit of a pull as well. But ultimately, that's always going to be a battle because you say they're just going to get the checkbook out and say, well, we'll just double what they've offered. And
they're
going to blow us out the water.
But look, like I say, I would honestly take either one of them. Either one of them are more than good enough to replace Fabianski. The thing Pope does obviously have an edge of is that he's played consistently at Premier League level and realistically has been one of the big reasons as to, he's a game changer. He makes game-winning saves. Areola also has done that in Europe, but has he done it in the Premier League? I can't really say so. When I watched him at Fulham, I can't really say I watched him and I thought that's a game-winning save there. But when I tune in and I see Pope, there's so many instances where I sit there and I think that's a game-winning save. And, he'd be massive for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Before we move on, then, lastly, got to mention him, and as a player, I'd love to see come back to the club. Is Jesse Lingard. I know there's a lot of fans that share that as well. It's a really frustrating one with Jesse because I really felt that after that loan spell, he was going to come back that summer. I know Manchester United, I think, gave him a bit of a run around in terms of what they could promise him in terms of game time and what have you, but it's a long drawn-out affair. I'm still 50-50 whether it's going to happen. Newcastle, again, I think will be a fall in the side with that.
Yeah.
But maybe, well, I'm saying 50-50. I'm slightly edging 60-40 now. It seems that the noises are that we are well within the running. We are making our moves early to try and get him at the club. What's your thoughts on Jesse Lingard?
Look, I love Jesse as a player, and I think he's been brilliant for us when he's played, but it kind of feels like one window too late. I think... especially if we're going to keep Vlasic in that number 10 role. And for me, the number 10 role is where Lingard needs to be. He's a good left winger. Is he better? Does he work as hard as Fornals? I'm not really sure. I love Lingard, but it honestly does feel like if we're going to push on to Europe, then we kind of need to be looking at someone maybe a little bit better. Still, 29 years of age as well. Obviously, on a free transfer, it's another number to make up the squad. Is he going to be happy sitting on the bench at West Ham? I wouldn't have thought so. Would I play him in front of Lanzini? Probably not, to be honest with you. So I'm a little bit over this transfer sort of with
really. Jesse. See, I'm not sure. I'm slightly against you on that one. I think if we're to lose Benrahma this summer, I think he'd be a great replacement. The thing is with Lingard, when I've seen him play, he just offers something a bit different. The way he runs and carries the ball, and the way he distributes the play. I think he's just got that added quality that, when he was playing for us, he opened up defenses so well. And the fact that he fits our system so well, as he knows our play, the way we play, he plays well for the manager. It's just worked.
Would he be in the starting 11 for you though, if he was to come to West Ham?
Yeah, for me it would be. I'd personally like to have him. I'd like to have him on the left coming in. And then have a Lanzini or maybe someone in the middle there. That would be my feeling. I just think he'd work really, really well for us. I mean, whether it will happen or not, I'm not sure. I mean, at the end of the day, he's at the last part of his career now. He's got the last probably 3 or 4 years at this kind of level. so he'll want to get the move right. But I don't know what his desire is. Is it to cash in, get as much money as he can? I'm not sure that would be really his big driver now.
I don't think so.
I don't see why that would be his driver now. I think really he'd be looking at the England squad, thinking I've got one more World Cup chance of it. And let's be honest, if he comes to West Ham and does what he did last time, he's got every chance of going on that plane, you know. And I think that's what will be in his thought process. And if there is Newcastle, okay, they could probably offer a lot more than we can in terms of wages. But, you know, you don't know what you get in there. He hasn't played for them before. He hasn't played under the manager before. I'd like to think if we offer enough money, a decent enough deal for him, he'll come. I'm hearing rumours of a 3-year deal, but whether that's true, I'm not sure. But it's certainly one to watch out for. Personally, I'd love to see it happen, even if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've no hate against Jesse at all. I love Jesse Lingard, and as a squad player, it's a no-brainer. But for me, I'm not sure if it, you know, he's going to expect first team football. I don't know if I would put him on the left head of Fornals. The more you talk about it, the more you're convincing me. So it's definitely not something I would be against.
That's my patter. That's my sales patter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll have a word with Moyes later. I'm going to give him a ring in a minute.
Yeah, well, look, I'm definitely not against it, but it kind of feels like one transfer window too late.
Yeah,
but you know, he'll probably come in and shut me up because he is a brilliant player.
Let's hope so. So before we go, then, mate, we want to talk about obviously your involvement with West Ham Way. So we've been talking about you. Obviously, we're going to be doing some shows, me and yourself, over the summer. Some videos here and there on YouTube with news and bits and bobs, and getting guests on and things like that. Also, I believe you're looking to do a sort of watch along show for next season. Is that right?
Yeah. So obviously, it's in its early stages at the moment, but I run a podcast as well, and me and my podcast buddy are looking to do a watch along for the West Ham games. Just plonking on, giving live reactions, hopefully interacting with you guys as well in the comment section, which will be a nice new element as well to the channel. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. Hopefully as well, we can get some good guests on, for some reactions. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely something I'm looking forward to.
Oh, me too, mate. Honestly, I'm really looking forward to it. We've got a busy summer, ahead, and it's just wait and see what happens. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to cracking on, and we've got get some content out soon.
Absolutely, mate.
Right, it's been a pleasure. You take care, and I'll speak to you soon, yeah?
You too, mate. See you later.
Bye-bye. So there we go. Very exciting, season, summer, coming up now. Wondering where we're going to all end up here. We've got some massive targets and, big ambitions at the club. We all have. It's going to be very interesting. Myself and Riley are going to be sort of putting out content as and when the news breaks and things like that over the next few weeks. And as we just touched on, then we're going to have a new show, some watch-alongs for next season. But next week we're going to have Dave Walker as the guest, which will be very exciting. Until then, take care. Speak to you soon. Take care.